something interesting is starting to take shape inside the offense of the New England Patriots. And if you look closely at what happened last season and what lies ahead this offseason, you can clearly see why the tight end position is quietly becoming one of the most important storylines for this team moving forward. Right now, the Patriots are entering what could be described as a transition phase at tight end, and a lot of that has to do with the direction of the offense around third-year quarterback Drake Maye. The young quarterback continues to grow into the leader of this offense, and one thing that became very clear over the last season is how important the tight end position is within the structure of the passing game. Veteran Hunter Henry remains one of the most reliable weapons in this offense as he heads into his age 32 season and his 11th year in the NFL. Even at this stage of his career, Henry continues to produce at a high level. Last season alone, he finished 7th among all tight ends in the league with 768 receiving yards, which tells you everything about how valuable he still is in the passing attack. But what makes Henry even more important is his ability to move the chains. He recorded 42 receptions that resulted in first downs, which ranked 4th among tight ends in the league. That type of consistency is exactly what a young quarterback like Maye needs in the middle of the field, especially in critical third down situations where the offense needs a dependable target. And the production didn't stop there. Henry also finished inside the top 10 among tight ends in several major categories. He posted a total EPA of plus 34, hauled in 60 receptions, and found the end zone 7 times. Those numbers highlight just how productive he remains and why he continues to be one of the most trusted players in the locker room and on the field. There's also something that numbers don't fully capture, and that's the relationship between Henry and Maye inside the building. Henry has developed a strong rapport with the young quarterback, not only during games but also off the field. His presence as a veteran professional has been extremely valuable for a developing offense that is still figuring out its long-term identity. However, there's another reality the Patriots have to face. Both of their main tight ends are now on the other side of 30. Austin Hoope, who served as Henry's wingman in the tight end room, is entering free agency and is also heading into his age 32 season. That means the Patriots could very soon find themselves needing to think about the next generation at this position. And that's where the conversation gets really interesting, because the issue isn't only about age, it's also about style and how the Patriots want their offense to function moving forward. Last season revealed a very specific weakness when it came to the way New England used multiple tight ends on the field. In the passing game, the results were actually very strong. When the Patriots lined up in formations with multiple tight ends, they ranked 4th in EPA per play through the air. That means the passing attack out of those sets was extremely effective, but the run game told a completely different story. When running the football out of those same tight end-heavy formations, the Patriots ranked 27th in the league in rush EPA, finishing with a negative mark of minus 0.14. That is a massive drop-off in efficiency, and it reveals something important about the current roster construction. The tight ends simply were not creating enough push as inline blockers. In the NFL, personnel matching is everything. Offenses want to force defenses into uncomfortable matchups. If an offense can run the ball effectively out of heavier formations, defenses are forced to respond with bigger base defensive packages instead of lighter nickel groups with 5 defensive backs. But because the Patriots struggled to run the ball effectively from those sets, defenses rarely had to adjust. Most opponents simply stayed in nickel defense, and that limited what the Patriots could do strategically. In fact, the Patriots used 12 personnel, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and 1 running back on just over 19% of their offensive plays that ranked only 20th in the NFL. For a team with 2 experienced tight ends on the roster, that number is surprisingly low. The reason is simple. The formations were not consistently creating mismatches. Without a strong run threat out of those packages, defenses didn't feel pressured to change personnel, which meant the Patriots often found it more effective to simply keep a third wide receiver on the field instead. And when you look at the blocking grades from last season, the numbers confirm the problem. Hunter Henry finished with a 54.2 run blocking grade, while Austin Hoope posted a 57.8 mark. Both players ranked outside the top 50 tight ends in run blocking, according to Pro Football Focus. That doesn't mean they're bad players. Far from it, but it does highlight a specific limitation in how this offense can operate. If the Patriots want to expand their offensive identity and lean more into multi-tight end football, they may need a different type of player at the position. Someone younger, someone more physical at the line of scrimmage, someone capable of changing the math in the run game. And once you start looking at the available options this offseason, that's where things become a lot more complicated for the Patriots front office. Because the tight end market, both in free agency and in the draft, might not offer the kind of well-rounded player this offense truly needs. So the big question now becomes, how exactly will New England solve this puzzle around Drake Maye and the future of the tight end position? And more importantly, should the Patriots prioritize a big-name receiving tight end, or should they focus on finding a younger, more complete player who can unlock an entirely new dimension in this offense? What do you think, Patriots fans? What direction should this team take at tight end? When you start looking at the available options across the league, you quickly realize why this decision for the New England Patriots front office is far more complicated than it may appear on the surface. A lot of fans immediately look at the free agency market and imagine a big splash signing. And to be fair, there are some recognizable names expected to be available. But when you break down the skill sets of those players and compare them with what the Patriots actually need, the situation becomes a lot more nuanced. For example, one of the most exciting names people will talk about is Isaiah Likely. He has built a reputation as a dynamic receiving tight end with explosive ability down the field. In many ways, he operates almost like a big wide receiver, stretching the seam and creating mismatches in coverage. If you imagine him paired with Drake Maye, it's easy to see why that idea is appealing. Maye have shown he likes attacking the middle of the field, especially when targeting larger pass catchers who can win in tight spaces. From a pure excitement standpoint, a move like that would absolutely generate buzz. Fans would see it as a flashy addition to the offense, but when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it might not actually solve the core issue the Patriots faced last season. Because while Likely can stretch the field and create big plays, he doesn't necessarily fix the run-blocking limitations that prevented New England from maximizing its heavier formations. And that same issue shows up with several other free agent options as well. Players like Cade Otton and Chigo Okonkwo are also known primarily for their receiving ability. They can contribute in the passing game, but they're not necessarily the type of physical inline blockers who change how defenses react to your personnel packages. That's why another name that quietly stands out is David Njoku. Now, Njoku isn't exactly part of a youth movement anymore, as he would be entering this stage of his career at 29 years old, but he still has something left in the tank as an athletic seam threat. And there's another connection that makes this situation interesting. Njoku spent the 2024 season working with Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel when Vrabel was in Cleveland. That familiarity could make him a natural fit within the system and locker room culture that Vrabel is building in New England. Even so, the broader issue remains. Most of the tight ends available in free agency lean heavily toward pass-catching roles rather than being complete, balanced players who can transform both the run and pass aspects of the offense. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there are tight ends known primarily for their blocking ability. One example is Charlie Kolar, who has built a reputation as a strong blocker at the line of scrimmage. But the downside there is production as a receiver. Over 4 NFL seasons, Kolar has recorded only 30 career catches, which means adding him wouldn't bring much help to the passing game. Then there's Daniel Bellinger, who offers a bit more balance. He has shown some promise as an inline blocker while also contributing as a receiver. Accumulating 88 career receptions so far, that type of profile may actually be closer to what the Patriots need if they want to reshape how their tight end room functions. But even with those names on the table, the Patriots might ultimately find their best answer in the draft rather than in free agency. And this is where the strategy becomes fascinating. Instead of chasing a headline signing, New England could target one of several tight ends expected to be available in the middle rounds of the draft. Prospects like Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, Oscar Delp from Georgia, Justin Joly from NC State, or Max Clare from Ohio State could provide a younger developmental option at the position. There is also one particularly intriguing scenario that some observers are quietly watching. If Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq were to slip down the draft board, he could potentially be available around the 31st overall pick. That would suddenly give the Patriots the opportunity to add a high upside player who could grow alongside Drake Maye and become a long-term piece of the offense. But tight end isn't the only part of the offensive puzzle the Patriots are evaluating right now. Another interesting layer involves offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels and his continued use of two-back formations that include a fullback. That style has always been a part of McDaniels' offensive playbook, and last season it showed up quite often in New England's system. The Patriots used 21 personnel, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 1 fullback on 15.3% of their offensive snaps. That ranked 4th highest in the entire NFL, which tells you that this formation remains a significant part of the offensive identity. The challenge, however, was execution. Converted tight end Jack Westover handled most of the fullback duties, but he struggled in the role because he isn't naturally built to be a powerful lead blocker. As a result, the Patriots actually posted negative efficiency when running plays from 21% finishing finishing with an EPA per play of -0.02. There was originally another plan in place before last season even started. Undrafted rookie Brock Lamp had been the early favorite to win the fullback job during training camp. Unfortunately, a season-ending injury last summer took him out of the competition before he ever had the chance to establish himself in the role. Now, as the next offseason unfolds, Lamp could return with a legitimate opportunity to compete for that position again. And if the Patriots decide to look for more traditional fullback options in the draft, there are prospects like Max Bredesen from Michigan or Eli Heidenreich from Navy who fit the mold of physical lead blockers. So when you put everything together, the tight end discussion in New England is really part of a much bigger offensive conversation. It's about helping Drake Maye continue his development, it's about expanding the playbook for Josh McDaniels, and it's about building a roster that can force defenses into uncomfortable situations instead of allowing them to dictate the matchup. The Patriots could still explore the free agent market, and names like David Njoku or Cade Otton might make sense depending on how the market develops. But the reality is that this year's class doesn't offer many complete tight ends capable of immediately unlocking a brand new dimension for the offense, which means the smartest move for New England might be patience, developing a younger player while continuing to build around the pieces already in place. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Patriots should go after a free agent tight end this offseason, or would you rather see the team draft a young player and build for the future around Drake Maye? And there is one more layer to this entire situation that Patriots fans should keep in mind as the offseason continues to unfold. Because when you truly examine the direction of the New England Patriots offense, the tight end discussion is really a reflection of a much bigger strategic shift happening around Drake Maye. When a young quarterback begins to establish himself in the league, every roster decision starts revolving around maximizing his strengths. That includes the type of receivers he throws to, the protection schemes in front of him, and even the type of personnel packages the offense uses to manipulate defenses. Last season gave the coaching staff a lot of valuable information about how Maye operates within this system. One thing that stood out was how comfortable he looked attacking the middle of the field, especially when targeting larger pass catchers who can shield defenders and create throwing windows. That's one of the main reasons why Hunter Henry remains such an important piece of the offense. His experience, route discipline, and ability to find soft spots in coverage gave Maye a dependable safety valve. When the play structure broke down or when pressure arrived quickly, Henry often became the first option Maye looked toward. But the Patriots know they cannot rely forever on a player entering his mid-30s, even though Henry continues to produce at a high level. The reality of the NFL is that teams must constantly prepare for the next phase before the current one ends. That's why the front office is likely studying the tight end position so carefully right now. It's not about replacing Henry immediately. It's about making sure the next version of the offense is already being built while the current one is still functioning. And that's where the balance between experience and youth becomes critical. If the Patriots sign a player like David Njoku or Cade Otton, they would be adding another established contributor who could step into the offense right away. Those types of players can give Maye additional receiving options and help stabilize the offense in the short term. But if New England chooses to go through the draft instead,